My name is Elara Quinn, 28 years old. I've carried the weight of this house for 5 years. When my father collapsed in the driveway that October evening, heart failure stole him in an instant. One week we were picking out kitchen tiles, laughing about how Mom would veto every color, and the next, I was standing beside her at the funeral, watching rain streak across black umbrellas while she stared blankly into nothing. I stayed because someone had to. I stayed because the mortgage was still hanging over us, because grief hollowed out my mother until she could barely leave her bed. I stayed because Dad once pulled me aside after an argument with her and whispered, "She just needs more grace. Take care of her, Elara." His voice still lingers in my head like a promise I've been shackled to. So I gave up the promotion that would have sent me to Seattle, with company housing and a 15-minute commute. I kept my roots here, driving the hour to work every morning, cooking dinner at night, scrubbing gutters on weekends. And for what? To be reminded, day after day, that I wasn't Josie. Josie, the golden child. Josie with her glossy hair, her effortless charm, her 1,000-watt smile that made strangers fall in love with her in 10 seconds flat. She left at 22 to marry Brent, a man whose only real talent was looking polished in a blazer. Together they paraded through family gatherings like royalty, while I hovered in the background, the dependable one. Mom never tried to hide her favoritism. "You should wear more color, Elara. Josie always lights up a room." Or, "You've been single too long. Even someone like you could still find love." I swallowed those barbs because I thought if I just kept showing up, paying bills, running errands, fixing what broke, maybe one day she would see me. But that illusion shattered on a Thursday evening. I came home late from work, exhausted from a shipping delay that kept me 2 hours past closing, and pushed the door open with heavy arms. The smell of lemon tea drifted from the kitchen. Then I heard laughter. Soft, theatrical, familiar. My heart sank even before I saw her. Josie was curled on the couch, designer coat draped over her knees, tissues balled up in her lap like props in a performance. Brent scrolled through his phone beside her, his jaw tight with disinterest. Mom hovered with a tray of tea and shortbread cookies, eyes shining as though she'd just been granted an audience with royalty. "Elara!" Mom's voice was unnaturally bright, the way she used to greet neighbors she secretly disliked. "Guess who's back?" I didn't answer. My eyes locked on Josie, and she sniffled, dabbing her cheeks. "Brent lost his job," she murmured, voice pitched perfectly between sorrow and martyrdom. "The company downsized his whole department, and our landlord, well, he's giving us 2 weeks to move out." My gaze flicked to Brent. He didn't even look up. "We don't have anywhere else to go," Josie continued. Mom reached out and squeezed her daughter's hand as if presenting her wounded child to me. "So they're moving in." For a moment I thought I'd misheard. "Wait, what?" "They need help, Elara. They're family." "So am I," said slowly, the words scraping my throat raw. "And I already live here." "You'll figure it out," Mom replied smoothly, brushing me off the way she brushed crumbs off a counter. "You're good at that." Josie lifted her head just enough to meet my eyes. She mouthed sorry, but the slight twitch of her lips curved into something closer to satisfaction. I waited until later that evening, when the house was quiet and Mom was rinsing dishes, to pull her aside. "This house is barely big enough for 2 adults, let alone 4. Where exactly are they going to sleep?" "In your room." I blinked. "What?" "You can take the guest room, or move out. It's up to you." Her tone was flat, final. "You're serious?" "I'm not discussing this, Elara." She dried her hands on a towel, not meeting my gaze. "I always wanted Josie back here. She belongs in this house." I felt the air drain from my lungs. I've been paying the mortgage, keeping this place alive. Mom shrugged, eyes narrowing. "It's in my name, and you always acted like you were doing me some big favor. I never asked you to." "You couldn't," I whispered. "You were a wreck after Dad died. You needed me." She turned, her voice suddenly cold. "And now I have Josie. I don't need you." It hit me like a slap, sharper than any insult she'd ever thrown. The next morning, Josie knocked on my bedroom door, voice chipper, as if we were children again planning a game. "Hey, Mom says if you could be out by Saturday, that'd be great. Brent and I kinda need the space." I opened the door just enough to see her leaning against the frame, eyes bright, lips curled in amusement. "Excuse me?" "Oh, come on." She tilted her head. "You've been living like a spinster. This will be good for you. A little fresh start." Something cracked inside me. I shut the door in her face before she could finish. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the floorboards. For years, I had told myself this house was safety, stability, duty. But at that moment, it felt like a cage I had been tricked into building around myself. My eyes fell on the manila folder sitting untouched on the bookshelf. The HR offer letter. Company housing, move-in bonus, freedom. My hand trembled as I reached for it. In the hallway, I heard Josie's laughter again, mingled with Mom's. The sound carried a weight I'd known my entire life, a world where I was always second best, where no sacrifice would ever earn me love. But maybe, finally, I didn't need it. The night after Mom's ultimatum, I couldn't sleep. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling fan creaking in slow circles, every rotation echoing with Josie's cheerful voice. "This will be good for you. A little fresh start." My chest burned with a cocktail of anger, grief, and something unexpected, relief. By dawn, I was already dressed, sitting cross-legged on the floor with the manila folder open in front of me. The HR letter looked almost foreign now, the ink faintly smudged from when I first gripped it with sweaty palms. A studio apartment, clean and safe, with company housing assistance. My pulse quickened. I could have been living there years ago if I hadn't chained myself to this place, convinced Mom needed me. Now she'd made it clear she didn't. The decision came quietly, almost anticlimactic, as if it had been waiting in the shadows all along. I called HR that morning, my voice steady even as my hands trembled. By noon, I had a move-in date, a key reserved, and a scheduled transfer at work. I didn't tell Mom, I didn't tell Josie. Instead, I packed in silence. Every object I placed in a box carried memories like tiny ghosts. The chipped coffee mugs Dad and I had picked together on a whim, the bookshelf I'd assembled one Sunday while Mom napped through her grief, the lamp I bought on clearance that became my companion during long nights at the dining table paying bills. Each item reminded me of my quiet labor to keep this house alive while Mom pretended Josie's absence was just temporary. No one offered to help. Mom and Josie were too busy discussing kitchen paint colors and where Brent's gaming setup would fit best. I could hear their voices drifting down the hallway as I taped shut another box. Their laughter felt like a knife twisting deeper, not because I wanted to be included, but because it confirmed I was already erased from their picture. By Friday afternoon, movers arrived. The men raised their eyebrows at the number of boxes already stacked near the porch. "You ready for the big move?" one asked with a grin. "Yeah," I said, exhaling. "Let's get started." We carried everything out, my bed, my desk, my dishes, my coffee maker. With each trip to the truck, I felt lighter. By early afternoon, the rooms looked bare, stripped of the life I'd poured into them. Dust outlines on the floor traced where furniture once stood, like ghosts of my loyalty. One of the movers glanced around, whistling. "You're really taking everything?" "Yes," my answer came calm, resolute. "Everything." By the time the truck pulled away, the house no longer resembled home. It looked hollow, foreign. I didn't linger. I didn't say goodbye. When I stepped into the studio apartment later that day, it felt like crossing into another universe. The space was small but bright, the walls a soft white, the window overlooking a stretch of city lights. The fridge didn't hum ominously, the pipes didn't groan like accusations, and no one's voice called my name with disappointment curled around it. I set down a box, sat cross-legged on the mattress, and for the first time in months, let out a full breath. The silence was not heavy, it was freeing. That night, my phone buzzed endlessly on the counter. Missed calls from Mom, then Josie, then Brent. Angry voicemails stacked one after the other. I didn't listen. I turned the phone off, made tea, and sat on the balcony, watching headlights blur into rivers of light below. My chest ached with both grief and relief, but for once, the ache felt like my own. Days passed. I learned the rhythm of my new life quickly. Mornings filled with quiet coffee rituals, evenings spent reading or watching the skyline shift colors. At work, my manager mentioned a possible promotion, a lead position that would have been impossible if I'd stayed tethered to Mom's house. Still, the shadows of my old life lingered. Every time I passed a hardware store, I thought of the tiles Dad and I never chose. Every time I saw siblings laughing together in a cafe, I wondered if Josie and I were ever meant to be sisters, or if we were just rivals born under the same roof. It would have been simple if the story ended there, with me moving on and them fading into the background. But I should have known Josie better. She never accepted losing control, and Mom never accepted losing her audience. One week after I moved, the receptionist at work buzzed me on the intercom. Her voice was cautious. Elara, your mom's here, and your sister. My stomach dropped. I hadn't given them my address. Of course I hadn't. They must have followed me, or worse, pried it from someone. I didn't answer. I stayed in the loading bay until they left, my pulse racing with equal parts fury and dread. That evening, I sat at my kitchen counter, staring at the city lights, sipping lukewarm tea. Something gnawed at me. They weren't just angry I'd left. They wanted something. And I had a sick feeling I knew what it was. I should have ignored the urge. But a week after they showed up at my office, I found myself driving down the familiar street, headlights sweeping across the cracked driveway of the house I used to call mine. A pale porch light flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the siding. The windows were dark, but I knew they were awake, waiting. The key still fit. When the door creaked open, the smell of lemon cleaner and stale cookies hit me. Mom and Josie sat at the kitchen table, arms crossed, faces thunderous. They didn't waste time. "What the hell did you do?" Mom's voice cracked like a whip. I set my keys on the counter, calm, almost detached. "What are you talking about?" "You stripped the house," she snapped. "There's nothing left. No fridge, no table, not even the toaster." I tilted my head. "That was mine. I bought it, like I bought everything else." Josie shot forward, eyes blazing. "You can't just take things without permission." "I didn't," I said evenly. "You assumed they were yours. That doesn't make it true." Her lips pressed into a thin line. For the first time, I noticed the tremor in her hands, the raw edge of desperation beneath her anger. "We didn't think you'd take everything," Mom spat. I spread my palms. "What exactly did you expect? I kept this house running for 5 years. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every blanket in this place was bought with my paycheck. You told me to get out, so I did, and I took what was mine." Josie's voice dropped, quiet but venomous. "The house feels like a shell. It's depressing." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I'm sorry. Is the house I paid for not comfortable enough without my things?" Her eyes narrowed. Then she said something I wasn't prepared for. "What about the bank account?" My chest tightened. "What?" "The joint account," she pressed, her voice sharpening. "Dad's insurance money. I checked yesterday. There's nothing left." I inhaled slowly. So that was it. The ghost that had been gnawing at me since I left. "That money was gone a long time ago," I said. "I've been covering the mortgage on my own for the past 4 years. Josie froze. "No, I saw it once. There was at least 40,000 left." "That wasn't insurance money," I corrected, my voice steady but cold. "That was me saving scraps of my paycheck. That's what I used to keep this house afloat." Her face drained of color. For a moment she looked like a child caught stealing cookies, fragile, frightened. Then the mask of anger snapped back in place. "No way," she muttered. "You're lying." I turned my gaze on Mom. "Why does it matter so much, Josie? You're not on the deed, it's not your house." Mom's expression flickered. First surprise, then panic. Josie spun toward her, eyes blazing. "Is she lying?" Mom's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Mother," Josie demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Tell me she's lying." "Let's talk later," Mom whispered. "Tell me," Josie's voice shook with rage. Mom's eyes darted away, her silence louder than any confession. "You told me the insurance payout was still there," Josie's voice cracked. "You promised if we came back we'd be okay, that we could use it to get back on our feet." The truth unraveled, like thread pulled from an old sweater. "You came back for money," I said quietly. Josie's head snapped toward me, fury flaring. "You think we moved in for family bonding? Brent and I are drowning in debt. He got fired 2 months ago. We've been maxing out credit cards just to survive. You think I wanted to sleep in my childhood bed again? No, Elara. I came back because she promised me there'd be money." Mom flinched. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," Josie's voice broke into a shout. "I meant every word. I wouldn't be here if you hadn't dangled that lie in front of me." Silence fell for a heartbeat, the kind that hums with static before a storm. I stood there, stunned, watching them unravel. Years of favoritism, of illusions, tearing open in a single night. Josie's face twisted with betrayal. "You lied to me," she whispered. "You told me we'd be safe here." Mom's eyes brimmed with tears she didn't let fall. Her voice was faint. "I thought we'd figure it out later." "Later." Josie's laugh was sharp, hysterical. "That's all you ever say. Later. Soon. Eventually." Her gaze cut back to me, raw with fury. "And you took everything, every last thing in this house. You left us with nothing." "No." My voice was calm, flat. "I left you with exactly what you gave me. Nothing." The words landed like stones in water, rippling through the room. Josie's lips trembled. The insurance money was supposed to be shared. You mean the money you thought you'd inherit? I asked coolly. The money you never contributed to, never even asked how it was being used. Mom looked stricken, guilt spilling across her face. You lied to me too, Josie hissed at her. All these years, you made me believe there was a safety net. You made me think Dad left something for me. Her voice cracked on the last word. The kitchen air grew suffocating, heavy with unspoken truths. Brent's absence hung like a shadow. He hadn't come home that night, hadn't even stood beside Josie as she fought. Maybe he already knew the truth, or maybe he'd abandoned her too. I leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching as the foundation of their world cracked wide open. The truth was no longer buried. It was standing in the kitchen, breathing, undeniable. And it was only the beginning. The kitchen had turned into a battlefield. Josie stood trembling, her fists clenched at her sides, while Mom sagged in her chair, eyes fixed on the linoleum floor like it might offer an escape. The air buzzed with a silence so loud it seemed to press against my chest. You used it, didn't you? Josie's voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried the weight of accusation. The insurance money, all of it. Mom's lips parted, then closed. Her hands twisted in her lap, fingers laced tightly as if she could hold herself together by force. Tell me, Josie screamed. Mom flinched. Her eyes darted to me, then back to her younger daughter. I didn't want to worry you. You were so happy with Brent, with your life. I thought... You thought? Josie cut her off with a harsh laugh, the sound brittle and unhinged. You told me there was money waiting if I ever needed to come home. That Dad left enough for us to start over. That was the only reason I came back. Her voice cracked on the last word, and the truth was raw, undeniable. I stepped forward, my voice calm but merciless. She spent it. Bathroom renovation, kitchen redo. That used Lexus she bought you when you got married. That wasn't from her savings. That was from Dad's insurance. Josie spun on her heel to face Mom, her face pale, almost ghostly. Tell me that's not true. Mom's silence was answer enough. God, Josie whispered, her voice breaking. She staggered back, gripping the counter for support. You lied to me my whole life. You made me believe Dad loved me enough to leave me something, when really... Her voice cut off in a choked sob. I was trying to protect you, Mom whispered, tears finally spilling. I thought we'd figure something out together when the time came. Josie's laughter was jagged, cutting. Protect me? No. You just wanted me back here so you wouldn't be alone. You promised me a future that didn't exist. And now look at us. Brent's gone, the money's gone, and the only person who kept this place alive walked out. Her eyes flicked toward me, burning with resentment. And you? I met her glare, unflinching. I gave you both years of my life. I paid for this roof, these lights, the food you ate. I stayed when Dad died, when everything fell apart. And the second you came back, Josie, she chose you over me. Mom's face crumpled. Elara, please. Please what? My voice was sharp now, cutting through the room. Please save you again? Please cover another mortgage payment? Please fix the mess you made with lies and favoritism? Tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't mean it when I told you to leave. I was angry. I thought if Josie came home, we could all... No. My voice shook with restrained fury. You meant every word. You told me Josie belonged here and I didn't. That I was disposable. And now you want me to save you? The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. I reached into my tote and pulled out a white envelope. I laid it flat on the counter between us. My last mortgage receipt. The loan's still in your name, Mom. 6 more years. Fixed rate. Monthly payments aren't too bad, unless you're unemployed and broke. Mom's hand shook as she reached for it, but she didn't open it. She didn't have to. Josie's voice rose, shrill with panic. You can't just walk away. You can't leave us like this. I turned to her, my expression steady. I already did. You're heartless. Her words trembled, more desperate than cruel. No, I said quietly. I'm free. Mom let out a strangled sob. Josie's face twisted, caught between fury and despair. They looked so small, so broken, huddled in the kitchen of a house they'd once lorded over me. For years, I'd been the invisible scaffolding holding it all together, and now, without me, the structure was collapsing. I walked to the door. Josie's voice cracked behind me. Well, good. We don't need you. Brent's talking to someone about a job. We'll figure it out. I almost laughed. Gambling's a tough industry to break into. Her mouth dropped open, but I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reply. At the threshold, I paused. My hand rested on the knob. Take care of each other. You wanted her, Mother. Now live with her. The door clicked shut behind me. It felt symbolic, like sealing years of pain inside and finally stepping into clean air. It's been 4 weeks since that night. I haven't spoken to them directly, but word travels. The house went on the market, sat for 2 weeks before someone lowballed them. They had no choice but to accept. Last I heard, they moved into a cramped one-bedroom apartment across town. Josie works part-time at a bakery. Mom does admin work at a dentist's office. Brent, well, no one seems to know what Brent's doing anymore. I'd be lying if I said it doesn't feel satisfying. But more than that, it feels quiet, peaceful. My new apartment is still modest, but it's mine. The furniture doesn't match, but it's comfortable. I cook what I want. I sleep through the night. My manager offered me a lead position last week, and I said yes. This morning, I sat in a cafe I used to avoid because Mom sneered it was pretentious. I brought a book, ordered a cappuccino, and drank it in silence. Halfway through a page, I caught myself smiling for no reason at all. And I realized something. They kicked me out thinking I was a parasite, a placeholder, disposable. But in the end, I was the only thing holding everything together. Now they have each other, and I have everything else. Freedom, solitude, stability, finally the life I chose.